Conference. We're back again for like the third time this week to do another live interview with one of our speakers. We have Mike McDermott of FreshBooks. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time today.
Glad to be here and looking forward to the event.
And I've had a hard time finding you on Facebook, so I was like, do you not have a Facebook account?
You know, I was pretty early to Facebook, which probably doesn't come as a surprise, but I'm now at a place where I log in like twice a year.
Okay, gotcha. Well, one of these days I aspire to be like you.
I don't know. It's a great way to keep up with people. I feel badly. I just, it's not where my time goes.
I know. Well, we have, it's such a huge piece of the conference that it is where my time goes. And it's funny because people are like, well, get your head out of Facebook. It's like, but that's where my people are. I can't help it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it definitely is. So tell me a little bit about you. What's something just super interesting that maybe even nobody really knows?
Oh,
not TMI, nobody knows, but
okay. Thank you for qualifying. We're in dangerous territory there. Okay, what is something? I'll tell you something. I don't know if this is super interesting, but I spent a lot of time growing up in my summers doing canoe trips. So if you're from Minnesota or Ontario, where I'm from, lots of lakes and canoe tripping is a big deal. Anyhow, I've just gotten into this thing called paddleboarding, stand-up paddleboarding.
Yes, we call it supping. Yeah.
Yeah, sup. Yeah. So for some folks, it's leisurely. For me, it's go, go, go. But I'm really enjoying it. It's nice new exercise in my life, and I guess that's something not everybody knows.
Yeah, we have a lot of it here in Austin because we have the Colorado River that's dammed up at both ends. And so we have I think they call it steady level lake. Yes. And so paddleboarding is really a big deal here. And I do rowing. I row in single scull. And so I have to get out and row about 6 a.m. before the paddleboarders get up and get out there. Luckily, they're like 7 a.m.ers. So we can share the water because, yeah.
Not to draw this out any further, but I have actually paddleboarded that stretch of water. So there's.
Oh, really?
It's a fun fact. Yeah, it's actually one of the first times I did it 3 or 4 years ago. It was the first time I was, maybe not the first time, but close to it that I was doing supping. Anyhow, got my own board now and throw it on the car and go as often as I can.
Yeah, I see more and more people with their own boards as well. So another interesting thing that I did learn about you was that you spent 3, maybe even 3.5 years living with your parents, starting up FreshBooks. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the story goes that I was running my own little design agency, and I was working from home, but I wasn't living with my parents working from home. I had my own apartment. Well, hold on, we'll get there because what you said is true. Anyhow, so I built the first version of FreshBooks and had my clients and was working from my own home. And I was in this neighborhood in Toronto's crazy real estate market then, and it is again now. And I was renting and I kept getting moved out of these houses I was renting in because they would be sold. So it happened like 3 times in like 9 months. And my parents, who were kind of moving up to what in Texas folks would call a lake house, we would call a cottage, other folks would call a cabin. They were going there for a couple months. They're like, why don't you come home and house sit? Because that'd be helpful for us. And I was like, okay, well, I figure out my next thing. And then we didn't leave. we were there 3.5 years.
I thought you said a couple of years. You meant a couple of weeks?
No, we were there for 3.5 years. Yeah, that's right. That's what they were thinking. So they had just redone. Anyways, I don't know how much you want on this, but they just redone the basement, and that was a mistake because we didn't leave for a while.
Well, I mean, I hear people doing that. You don't hear a whole lot of people actually telling the story about it. And, was it just easier because it really relieved a lot of financial stress, or was it a wash because emotionally it was difficult, or, did it really help to do that?
Oh, I think, I was not paying myself very much at all. And so I think the financial consideration was the primary reason. We had 6 people there by the end. But, we were, after 2 years of the project, we were making $100 a month. So, saving rent money really did matter.
Makes a big difference. Yeah. So real quickly, how did you turn that around? I mean, was it just time that took getting enough people in and building a platform strong enough that had enough functionality in it for people to pay for it that really got it moving, and it just took a while to get there?
Yeah, I think the answer is all of the above and more. I had been, freelancing and built a small agency of sort of myself and contractors and ultimately some full-time folks. But we were client services. I didn't know anything about building a product or a product company or anything else. Okay. And so, I saved over an invoice one day by accident, billing my clients, decided to be a better way, built this product, which became FreshBooks. And so, so when you think about, what took so long and all the rest of it, first of all, it's my belief that, most successful companies are built over time. People like the stories of it being really quick, but I always like to say we're working on a, 10 plus year overnight success story. Yes. And so we had to learn about building a product, doing what's now commonly called customer development, but I'd say like research and, that kind of thing. Marketing the product, marketing a product company, building a brand, building a team, serving the product. I can't even tell you. We had to learn everything, and there's a lot to building a product company, and we've had to learn everything first principles. So we were figuring that stuff out. Good news is I had some background in internet marketing, and that's how we started getting our first customers. And bit by bit, we got to here, and now we're excited about the next leg of the race.
Awesome. Well, I want to jump real quick into what you're going to talk about at the conference. It was really interesting. What happened was I was actually speaking with someone on one of your teams about possibly sponsoring the conference, and we had conversations back and forth. And they ended up going with a couple of other conferences this year with a promise to come on next year. And I was bummed, but I said, okay, that works. And then literally the next week, someone from another part of your team reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in having Mike McDermott of FreshBooks come and speak at your conference? We have a really, really strong line that if you sponsor, you don't get to speak at the conference. So because the sponsorship had fallen through, I got to say yes. And so it's like, all right, thanks, universe, you're taking care of me.
Having organized a conference before, it's church and state, right?
Yes.
You don't want the wrong kind of content, and it remains to be seen whether you're headed in the right direction having me. But I'm excited about it. So, yeah. What was the question again? So that was really just a story. The question is, talking about what you're going to speak about at the conference itself. The title, I don't remember right off the top of my head, but it's, freelancing is basically more than just a gig. And I love that. I thought it was just really fantastic. And a lot of people talk about the gig economy versus freelancing, and I think there is a difference. And so from your perspective, what do you want to tell us about, how you see that? Yes, good question. And so, I'm not someone who takes a talk off the shelf and just does it. So it'll be something kind of net new. And it's a long-winded way of saying I haven't actually fully designed the talk yet. But, here's
flesh that out here.
Yeah. So here's what a couple of thoughts in that vein, and something I'm passionate about. I think FreshBooks is what it is a simple invoicing and accounting tool in the cloud. There's all this talk about the gig economy and stuff today, and we serve people who, generally they don't do gig stuff. What they do is they build lasting client relationships, through repeat engagements, and that's kind of how they freelance. And it's not the same. I think people are confusing these two things. So I want to talk a little bit about that. We're doing a bunch of work to kind of help people understand how big and important a group of people this is. It's my belief that, certainly I'm from the software business these days. So, there's been lots of attention paid to consumer applications, whether that be something you hail your taxi cab with, or, the enterprise, which is building software for really big companies because they can pay for a lot of stuff. And I think small business and freelance, really has been underserved historically. That's changing now, and I'm really excited about it. And part of what I see my role as is like, hey, we've built this great business serving this market. We really believe in them. And because, I come from there, I was a freelancer, built the tool for myself. So I am that market, but I feel like there's, a burden of education for us to also, understand how big a collective force we are, and where the world is going and how we might want to, sort of influence some of that as well. So, a bunch of thoughts in that vein, as I say, haven't quite pulled together what we might cover as of yet, but I'm very passionate about self-employed professionals and their teams, and I think there's I'll expose a bias, which is I don't think we understand. Like, we're all so busy taking care of our customers and or clients in most cases, and trying to make ends meet. That we don't actually pick our heads up enough to realize, like, collectively what a big force we are, and what a massive part of the economy and the workforce we are, and so I want to just kind of we'll see if this is how it actually shapes up, but have people kind of understand our collectiveness in a way that we don't today, and that these aren't gigs. These are people who have businesses and longstanding client relationships, and yes, there's many professions in place, and some, like a photographer, might be more gig oriented, but chances are even a photographer's got clients that bring them repeat business, and that's it's not the gig economy. It's something different.
It is something different, and I wonder if we can come up with and implement a name somewhere between, employment and gig, right? Because a lot of times they are a bunch of little projects, but you get those same projects from the same clients, like you're saying, over and over and over again. And so my income may actually be steady, even though I'm doing 20 different projects every week.
Yeah, well, and by the way, most of the new projects or clients, they come from my existing clients. They don't come from some app in the sky. And I think that's actually one of the things that's really a difference maker between, to me, the gig economy and folks who freelance, and that's their chosen path. So I think of it as self-employment. Trying to hang a name on it is it's been really hard. Or professionals, like self-employed professionals, right?
Professionals.
Anyhow, it's but then professionals, you think, is it just a lawyer and accountant? And I would say no, like a graphic designer is a professional, right?
Absolutely.
So it's complicated. We've tried trying to find a name to hang on it, and I've been all over the map with it. Haven't really landed on something, and if you figure it out, please let me know. Because,
I will. I'm going to push it out to you.
Yeah, well, I think it's actually important. I think part of the challenge of having the world take us seriously, collective, and serve us better is that there isn't one name to kind of capture it all, right? And freelancing, is good, but it's not perfect, right? Like, would a plumber think of themselves as a freelancer? Like, no, right? But they're very much self-employed. They've got repeat clients.
Absolutely.
Anyhow, I could go on, but I'll stop there for now.
No, I know exactly where you're coming from, and it's I've been asked to speak on different panels. I was actually just spoke at an economic development forum last month, and it was funny because somebody in the audience was like, "Well, I really love this whole gigster economy," and it's like going, "Oh, we don't really call it that," but they do, and they're very proud that they knew the term, and so it's like you have to be able to also accept and acknowledge the terms of the day so that we can have a conversation. It's difficult to have a conversation if you're not willing to.
That's right. For what it's worth, I've seen this play out before in the technology world where, people are kind of groping around for a name to capture it, and then it's usually, 5 or 10 years, everyone will standardize on a name. So we'll get there. We're just not there yet.
Okay. Well, that's all I had. Is there any questions or anything that you have of our team or anything for the Freelance Conference coming up?
Well, I was just going to say, big fan of Austin. Spent a bunch of time there over the years, and I'm really excited to be joining everyone in town then. So just looking forward to it, and I better get my talk together between here and there.
Better get your talk together. Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for giving us some of your time. I'm sure you're an extremely busy man, and I thought of you this morning. I had one of my contractors send me an invoice on FreshBooks.
Hey, I love hearing that. So wonderful.
I bet you do. Yes.
Please pay him.
Well, those.
But sorry, I was giving a plug for. Hopefully, it'll be so easy for you to pay that invoice that she or he will actually receive even more prompt payment than usual. How about that?
Okay, and he did get paid this morning, so hopefully he's very happy.
Yeah,
and he did an awesome job too. So those of you guys that are looking to come to Freelance Conference, you get to see Mr. Mike McDermott with us. And those of you guys that have not got your ticket yet, I don't know what you're waiting for, but you might want to stop waiting. Go to freelanceconference.com and grab your ticket. The prices go up on August 10th. I was going to say October 10th. There won't be a price on October 10th. On August 10th, and the conference is September 8th and 9th. And Mike will be with us on the 8th, just to let you know. And that wraps it up for today. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Bye, all. Excuse me.